Live from Owings Mills, Maryland, it's the Max Fortune Show. Whether it's becoming a success by achieving your dreams and goals, growing your business, or unlocking your full potential, the Max Fortune Show specializes in helping you maximize your fortune. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Max Fortune Show.
All right, so hello and welcome to the Max Fortune Show. I'm your host, Max Fortune, and what I do is I specialize in helping people achieve their dreams and their goals and build their businesses through innovative marketing techniques, as well as coaching people who want to write books quickly and affordably. I'm also an author, publisher, and a book coach, and if you haven't liked and followed my page yet, please do so at this time by going to facebook.com/AskMaxFortune. And also, please make sure that you share the page with anyone who might be interested in writing a book or getting their book published. Now, today, I wanted to also say you can also email us at the show here at maxfortuneshow@gmail.com. And today on my show, I have Dr. KAdijah Harris-Campbell here. So I'm very excited about that. And so, Dr. Campbell, I was able to find a little bit of information about you. So are you okay with I share some of the information I found?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Dr. KAdijah Harris-Campbell from birth has overcome many battles that life has brought her way. And through her story, or actually her story goes just like this. So she was born the fourth of 6 children to a stressed, overworked, underpaid, mentally unstable, poverty-stricken, drug and alcohol abusive household. She was the victim of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse throughout her childhood, which led her to the foster care system, where now the abused became self-inflicted. And due to a lifestyle accustomed to mistreatment, KAdijah adapted very quickly to a life of all kinds of abuse. This is where she pauses and says, "But God." Now, through divine intervention, the Lord saw fit to have mercy on the former victimized sex addict, child murderer, adulterer, ex-con, and introduce her to a life of divine purpose through the power of salvation through Jesus Christ. Now, the former victim is now a certified Christian counselor who offers counseling services to various groups varying from teens, sex addicts, men, women, and marriages. Also, the former sex addict and adulterer is a wife of over 20 years. The former abortionist is the mother of 7 children and 3 grandchildren. And the former ex-con is the co-pastor of Alarm Church, where she presently serves as the First Lady, co-pastor, prophetess, and mother of the house. She has successfully achieved statuses as an American University Board Certified Christian Counselor, a licensed and ordained prophetess and pastor, and is a recipient of a doctorate in divinity. Pastor Campbell has turned her life around and devoted her life to serving as a humanitarian to those in need. And she truly has a heart for those that are suffering. Again, Dr. Campbell,
Hi.
welcome to the
Thank
Max
you.
Fortune Show.
Thank you.
And so today we're going to be focusing on your book, The Unmarked Grave. And so I want you to tell us a little bit about your new book.
Well, I'm excited about it, of course. I want to thank you, Max Fortune, and Cynthia Rollins, and destined to, I can't remember, sorry, Cynthia, but this book has been a new baby. You heard I have 7 children, so this is my 8th child. I'm grateful to be able to just get this book started. It is a book dealing with buried issues. We live our life and we have things that we just bury and they become unmarked. And so it is a book that allows us to start looking at what's unmarked and dealing with it. So I'm excited that we were able to accomplish such a task. It took me a while to really get this book started, but we're just grateful that we're able to get it out here so people can start looking at what's in their life that they have buried, and now they didn't put a label on it. It's unmarked, and we want to get it up, dig it up, and start dealing with it.
So how long did it take you to work on this book? How long were you writing?
Well, we started the project mentally 3 years ago.
Okay.
It was a mental project, and then to actually start putting things on paper, it took us about a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which is still good. I mean, some people spend years and years. As a matter of fact, I think with my first book, I walked around with 5 years, honestly, my outline for that first book, 5 years. And, yeah, sometimes there's so many people out there probably watching right now, walking around with a book right now that they need to get published. And so let me ask you something. Did you always want to become a writer?
No, I didn't. I never even thought about becoming a writer. I always knew I had something to say.
Okay.
So a speaker, yes, but a writer, no. I knew that there was a book in me. And when I wrote this book, I know there are several books in me. So it was a really eye-opening, very, very rewarding experience. And I'm excited about what's to come next. So I believe it's been birthed. I'm a writer now.
Okay. Yes, you are. You are. And you know what? Let's talk about what actually made you write The Unmarked Grave. What made you write that book? I mean, it's a very deep book. I mean, it's very enjoyable. So tell everybody what made you actually sit down and put that book together.
My mother passed 3 years ago. My natural birth mother passed 3 years ago. And I had, as you hear, a very challenging childhood life. I felt like it was time to get out a little bit about me that most people don't know.
Okay.
People don't know a lot of my suffering because I mask it very well. I've been taught to do that, you know. And so I had to write this book because I had to bring awareness to various things. Addictions, living a life of fantasy. I'm covering things out with religion. So it's a very PG-13 book.
Okay.
It allows people to start seeing, you know, that we must deal with the very things that people don't want us to talk about. We're not taught to talk about the pain, but we must deal with it so we can have a productive future.
I agree with you that, and there's so many people who do walk around and just not deal with those issues, and actually, I think to me, when you put issues under the rug, then you eventually start tripping over it, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's better to just do that introspective time to take and just share and really kind of go inside and really, I think at the underlying of most relationships, there's things that we bury, you know, things that we don't deal with, and especially if you're finding yourself repeating patterns of behavior in relationships, then usually that means that something's unresolved. If you're kind of, and I think most of us start, you know, you date the same person or get into the same relationship over and over again, and if you're finding you're ending those relationships, there's something that you should be out of, but you find yourself back in another one. So I think the Unmarked Grave will be probably good from what you're saying as far as helping people kind of uncover some of the things that they're dealing with in their past, and start dealing with things, facing those issues. It's
hard, but it's worth it. It's a very rewarding thing when you're able to not hide anymore. And I don't think, you know, honestly, Max, I really don't think that people are aware that they're hiding. They're not aware that these things are. That's why I called it the unmarked grave. You know, it's in a graveyard. It is not marked. You didn't do it on purpose. It's just something that life teaches you to bury and suppress. But as you look, you'll find that life will show you that there's something there because you find yourself always going back to this dark place. And until you confront it and deal with it and mark it and start saying, you know what, I have to deal with the pain and I have to make some changes. Because the book is about bringing awareness to what's unmarked in your life, what's buried in your life, and also bringing some changes to that. So it's not just about hearing a story of a girl who suffered, but also trying to find yourself in that suffering and what does it bring up for you, and then start dealing with that, you know.
So what are some of the signs or the indications that maybe you have some things that you're not dealing with but that you need to deal with?
That's a great question because, like I said, I don't think everyone is aware of it. So I think the biggest sign is non-productivity in your life. If you find yourself continue doing the same thing, we call that insanity. So you have to start saying, why am I here? Why do I feel stuck? Why do I feel like I can't move to the next place in my life? Why do I feel like even it could be relationships. I find myself dating, like you said, the same kind of person. Why do I attract the same kind of people? Why do I feel like I have unproductive relationships? What do my friendships look like? So these are signs that make you start sitting back and saying, you know, what about me do I need to change? And where did this come from? How am I molded this way? We don't really look at how we got here. We only are taught to achieve. But we never are taught to go back and try to evaluate, why are you the person you are? How did you get this way? And so the Unmarked Grave is making us go back a little bit and try to look at the little child and see, where did something go wrong? Because our personalities usually are shaped by those that that mold us. You know,
Right,
that
right.
our parents, grandparents, you know, they're usually shaped like that.
Wow.
And so we started living our life, you know, vicariously through other people and how they shaped us. We don't really know who we are until we get to a place to say, I'm not really happy. I'm okay, but I'm not living my best life.
So let me ask you this. And do you want me to call you Dr. Campbell?
It doesn't
KAdijah?
matter, you can call me whatever. There's so many names, but KAdijah is what I've been
KAdijah,
birthed with.
So talk a little bit about how some of the challenges that came with writing this book. I mean, you talked about some of the pain that you had to unmask and go through, so it had to be, you know, a lot of challenging. It had to be not easy for you to actually face your stuff. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, the beautiful thing about writing a book, and like I said, Destined to Inspire from Cynthia Rollins, she was a great birth coaching. She allowed me, I don't really type very well.
Okay.
So for those people that want to write a book, get your phone and record it. That's what I did. I recorded a lot of what I wanted to say first before I even put it on paper. And I would go a segment, a month or so, without picking it back up because it was just too painful to revisit. It's like going to a gravesite. I don't know about anybody else. I'm not one of those people who take flowers to the gravesite.
Right.
If I usually bury somebody, it's painful. I never want to go back to revisit that. So this was kind of like that. It was making me go back and revisit the most painful times in my life.
Wow.
And I never knew. I remember calling her on the phone and saying, I quit. I can't do this anymore. No one wants to revisit pain.
Right.
So it was painful, and it took me a while to allow the pain to manifest itself in a way that it brought divine healing that I wasn't expecting.
Wow.
I wasn't. So it took me a while, but I pressed through it. I got through it. I evaluated why that was there, why the person inflicted that on me. I was able to work through forgiveness, which I thought I already had done. You know, I was living a good life with my husband and kids. I thought you couldn't tell me that I didn't have any unforgiveness in my heart. But the book made me realize there were some things that wasn't quite forgiven.
You know, you mentioned that word forgiveness, and it's one of those things that, you know, people think about forgiveness in lots of different ways. And the most important thing that people should know even about forgiveness is that it's not for the other people. It's really for you.
It is.
You know, and that sounds tongue-in-cheek, I guess. People say, yeah. But we actually hold ourselves captive when when we don't forgive someone else, and it's kind of like that biblical process of turning the other cheek, and it's part of that whole thing. Sometimes you have to move on, and sometimes those things keep you from greatness because you're still carrying on things that you thought you've dealt with, things that you felt like you said, you felt like you've forgiven, and you kind of moved on with life, but what you actually did, like you said, you buried it and just moved on. And but so going back, so this book actually will help people find or discover forgiveness.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the other things I will say about forgiveness, my first book I wrote, Success is the Blueprint to Achieving Your Dreams and Goals. It's kind of a book on achieving dreams and goals or accomplishing things. And one of the things I wrote about was why, and how powerful that word why is.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the word why is super powerful because when you ask yourself why something happened, because you had just mentioned this, and when you ask yourself why something happens, then it opens up the door for answers.
Yeah.
And it seems like your book is going to help people kind of discover that why. Why did this happen? I heard you say, hey, you were going back and revisiting, why did this happen to me? How did this, you know, why did I get this way? Why did I become this way? And I think when you start really asking the hard questions, the answers start coming.
Yeah.
And
you know, what I found, Max, is that it's important for us, whatever phase we're in life. I want people to get to a place where they start doing this younger.
yeah.
I have an organization called Operation Jumpstart Legacy. The purpose of that is I want people, us that are a little older, to start creating a legacy that children or those that are in our circle, we can inspire them to start asking those questions. We was taught, don't ask why.
Right.
Do what I say.
Right.
You know, be seen, not heard. And so I want to kind of break that cycle.
Right.
And so this book is, you know, probably going to challenge a lot of my family because it's exposing things about the things we were taught never to talk about.
Right, right.
You know, so it's exposing things. And what I was understanding in writing this wasn't about my mother. My mother is deceased. I'm not trying to offend her. I'm not trying to hurt her in any way or hurt her memory.
Right.
But this was about me. And originally I thought that this was going to be a book that was just pertaining my story. And as I got into it, I realized I'm not the only one that's dealing with this.
Right.
I'm not the only one that has, you know, unmarked issues.
Right.
And we have to go back to the gravesite and allow ourselves to be free. So the why factor is, why not?
Yeah.
It's your life. Deal with it. You know, and it's imperative that we deal with it. I mean, if I can encourage anyone out there, I would just tell them, deal with whatever it is. If your motive and intentions is not to hurt the next person, it is okay to live your story. It is your story. It is your life.
You know, you mentioned something else a moment ago about how really it's a different kind of generation. You want to reach younger people now. Yeah. And I think the challenge today is that, you know, I read a statistic recently that there are more suicides, teen suicides, younger
it is absolutely
children.
true.
I think there's the cyberbullying thing, and then there's, I think, people also living vicariously through watching other people's lives and internalizing that from social media into looking at their own life. And so you mentioned something else about doing this reaching younger people, and I think that it's so important to be able to have those dialogue, those questions. Why am I the way that I am? And if you start delving into that early, you can process your social media through that lens, and understand or get a greater understanding of who you are. It sounds like from even your book. So it definitely sounds like in reading your book and reading about your story, it actually will create self-discovery in other people. Yeah, and that's really important. It kind of segues into my next question. You've kind of answered it, but I'm going to have you answer it again. What should people expect to get out of this book? I mean, you've kind of been answering it the whole way, but I want you to delve a little deeper into what should people expect to get out of this book. What should the reader get out of it?
The reader will get exposure. They will get exposure to allowing themselves to feel and to deal. Okay. Feel the pain, deal with the pain, and the most important part, I hope all readers get out of this, freedom. Wow. I want them to walk away saying, it is okay for me to be free. It is okay for me to expose the pain, bring some sunlight to it, and allow it to heal itself. And now I can now walk in freedom. I want people to come out of fantasy. I think a lot of people are masked with fantasy, whether it be addiction, partying. You have older women, older men that's still trying to live their youth. Right. They're living a fantasy life. From somewhere along the line, they're not dealing with something. Because at a certain point in our life, we should be able to walk in a successful freedom of getting older. Right. That's not something we should be suppressing. Right. We should be embracing things. And so I want the reader to get out of this book freedom. I want you to be free. You know, free from fantasy, free from addictions, free from pain, free from people's thoughts of who you should be. Right. You know, I'm a pastor's wife. I'm a mother. I believe in God, but that's not who I am altogether. I'm still a fun-loving person. I still like to dance and have a good time, but people think they'll put an image on you. And before you know it, you're living a fantasy life. And now you're bearing other issues of who you really are. I want people to get out of this book. It's time to mark your life. It's time to deal with who you want to be. Live your best you. Deal with that pain. Allow my story to dig up some things that you've buried.
I like that feel and deal thing you said.
Feel and deal.
Yeah,
you got to feel it.
Right.
If you don't feel, we're taught not to feel it.
Right.
You know, people always say, and it's not, like I said, it's not a female-male book. I want the men. We underestimate men. Men has feelings. Men have been abused. Men have been put down. And I want the men to get out of this, young guys to get out of this. You know, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay to be angry, you know?
I was going to ask you, I was going to ask you that, so you kind of jumped ahead a little
Oh,
bit.
sorry.
But now while we're on the subject, why don't we delve into that? Again, you know, this would possibly seem like it's a book for just women. Again, men have the same issues, different kind of, we process things also very differently.
Yes.
And I think I'm a very big proponent of any time you get a chance to talk about issues, because we as men, you know, women early, girls get together, start talking early.
Yes.
Guys, we don't get that. We're not going to go over a friend's house and you know, cry about our relationships or whatever. They don't want to hear that. You know, the other guy wants to hear some other guy crying about, you know, this other stuff. But you all at least women have a little bit more of support, and so it takes a little bit longer for men to get in touch with their feelings.
Yes.
And or to allow themselves to be touched, or to deal. So if this book, The Unmarked Grave, you're saying will help men even uncover some of the ways, honestly, that they've probably been personally not dealing with.
Yes.
But it probably would give us some insight as to personal things, you know, how actually, I guess, dealing with other people, maybe some of the ways that can help them deal in relationships moving forward as well. And how really just, I guess, even processing that and just going through that whole feel it and deal with it type of situation, I think it just helps with anybody. So as far as The Unmarked Grave, with, you know, you kind of talk about women getting this from, but go a little deeper into what women will get from reading. Okay. Women specifically also.
Okay. Women and men, or just women?
Oh, either or, take your pick. We talk about.
Well, I think naturally, like you said, women are taught that it's okay to cry. You know, women cry all the time. You know, some women. But I didn't. When I was writing this, I started seeing it's the way you have to get the book. I don't want to give the book away, but it's the beginning of the book is dealing with fantasy. And I couldn't believe the way that I was led to write it, because I know that it probably made my husband very nervous, because it's talking about, you know, a lot of sexual things. And when I realized that, I knew it was written like that for men, to be honest. Okay. Because men are taught that the way they express themselves is usually through sex. Okay. We unfortunately will allow men, I have brothers, sons, and I work with men. So men are struggling in areas that the world doesn't usually say is a problem. Masturbation, that's not a problem. You know, pornography. Men, we're taught that men can accept that. Right. But then they're not taught that these things hinder their relationships. So when they become married, they still have these now, what was taught to them to be something that just men do to release or to have an outlet, now it becomes an addiction. Right. So now they have a hidden addiction that is now affecting their new relationship. Right. This book is trying to expose how we live under such a fantasy. And we don't know where it came from. So I hope that men will even allow themselves to process this and say, how did I get like this? How did I get to a place where, you know, my only outlet is a sexual one or an anger one? Right. You know, men, you know, they'll deal with the anger emotion more than any other emotions, you know. And I used to remember telling my husband, you've mastered one great emotion, and that's anger. You know, but all men have mastered that one. They can get angry. But it's hard to tap into why I'm not familiar with any other emotions. And it usually is a lot to do with what they went through. And it doesn't have to be abuse. Right. So this book is not, I want people to understand that abuse comes in all different ways. Right. You know, there's name calling, there is suppression. Men go through a lot of suppression and, you know, oppression. Right. And felt like, you know, I have to be a man before I am a man. You know, while I'm a boy, I have to be a man. And so the book is just kind of trying to draw the younger people, the women and the men, to start realizing, first of all, where do you fit in the area of fantasy? That's before we can get into our feelings. Where are you really? You know, and the area of fantasy exposes that. You know, the part of the book that the book is broken down in 3 parts. So the first part is really dealing with fantasy. You know, it's the stars, you know, the gazing stars. The stars tell us, Max, that, oh, this is romance, you know. And people go after that kind of life, you know. And for men and women want the movie fantasy. Right. You know, men want the sexual fantasy. Either way, it's fantasy.
Right.
It's not reality,
right.
You know. And so we want to start dealing with that. And then it goes into the painful part of, how did I get this way? Because in fantasy teaches us nothing's wrong.
Right.
That the problem usually is someone else. I'm okay with me because I've learned to live under the starlights and I'm fine. It's not until we realize I'm really not fine. And now it's time to feel. And then you can move into, you got to deal. Got to change some things.
So it sounds like this book is very deep. It's going to take you on a deep journey.
It's going to take you on a deep journey.
And,
if you allow yourself to go on the journey.
Yeah, and
everybody's not ready.
And you're right, everybody's not ready. And I guess there are levels to getting ready and preparing yourself to go on that journey.
Yes.
So I noticed that with the Unmarked Grave, it's actually like volume 1.
Yes.
So is there a volume 2, and let's talk about that.
Well, you started off by saying it's going to take you on a journey. And the purpose of the volume 1, the Unmarked Grave, is to allow yourself to go on this journey. Volume 2 is saying it's going to be a process. So volume 2 is called Marked by His Love. We have to come to a place where we start to evaluate what love looks like. Who am I really? Volume 1 deals with, I got to deal with this. Volume 2 deals with, okay, it's your written vision board. You know how people do vision boards? Okay. Instead of a vision board, men won't come together and they won't cut out papers and write down little pictures and say, this is my vision board. You know, that's girly stuff, right? Well, this is created for everybody. It's a non-gender workbook journal. It allows you, it asks you detailed questions. Who are you? Take a day or two to think about that. Come back and write it down. Come back and say, how did I get here? Come back and start writing down, where am I trying to go? I think it's going to attract men because I think men are ready to start saying, what do I want to do with my life? Right. I think we're living in a time when most people are starting to evaluate, you know, where do I want to take my life? So volume 2 deals with, now that you have started to feel and deal, let's put some practical things in place. Not fantasy. We're moving out of fantasy. Some people's vision boards is fantasy. I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a billionaire. Well, volume 2 is Marked by His Love. I want to be marked. I want to label what I really want to do and what's the steps I need to take, practical steps. Want to lose weight? Are you even walking? Have you changed your diet in any way? You can't just lose weight if you're not going to make some changes. You can't make money if you're not willing to work. Are you lazy? It makes you answer the hard questions. How often do you sleep during the day? Do you sleep too much? Do you find yourself late? Do you know who your creator is? Do you feel like you need a creator? Let's talk about that. It makes you start to evaluate how you process things. So I don't want people to just read a book. I want people to walk away with, what are you going to do different to change your life? Again, I'm all about legacy. You know, I'm all about, you know, the part Operation Jumpstart, the word operation. We're going to have to do something. We do not want to go through surgery. We don't want to cut in ourselves. We don't want to deal with it. But in order for you to really become healthy, you have to cut out those things that are unhealthy to jumpstart you to building something that's bigger than you. Legacy is bigger than us. When you're trying to create a legacy, family, fathers, you got to start somewhere. You got to get out the mentality. Men don't do that. But then you're not ready to create a healthy legacy for your sons, for your nephews.
I think it's also about breaking chains and things that have affected you as a child. And there's so many people, especially for men. I myself being a man and growing up with a single mom. I had to create my own definition of what being a man is and how to do that because my father wasn't around. And I think that's the case for a lot of men. It's like having the example, what you see is what you kind of become. And some of that is healthy, some of it's not, or a lot of it's probably not, depending on where you are. but it's very important to kind of do that assessment and say, you know, these are the things I liked, these are the things I didn't like, these are the things I've changed, and I made sure I changed a lot of those things. I was very focused early on about breaking my personal changes with my father not being around, and making sure I'm around for my children. This is very, very important to me.
Yeah.
I do want to go back and circle back to something that you said about Marked.
Okay.
And with Marked, you're saying it's a journal. And so it's not just, you also mentioned that you don't want people to just read. You want them to do something. You want them to take some action.
Yeah.
And I want you to speak to the power of, I know when people when you have a thought in your mind, but when you take that thought and you commit it to paper.
Yes.
Let's talk about what happens in that process.
You know, even when I did the Unmarked Grave, I can want to write a book all day long. And I can tape record it all day long. But until I put it on paper, it's just my ideas. It really isn't a book. Mark, people don't want to write. And that's a part of a cycle we got to break. We have to be willing to put things down. And then writing it down, seeing the vision, making it plain, and now doing something with it. Because it holds you accountable. When you mark something, you label it.
Right.
The word mark is basically showing us, label it. You know, I'm going to mark my life. My life is going to be marked as a successful legacy. Everyone that, when I'm gone and buried in my grave, my legacy needs to live on, not because I said it, because I wrote it down and I did something. I changed my story. You can't just change your story in your mind.
Right.
You have to write it down. You have to mark where you're going. And so that's why I labeled it Marked by His Love. I can't do this on my own. So I need the power of one that's greater than me, that know my life. When I'm not a religious person, so I don't get into God and all of these things with people. I just simply ask them a question. If you think that you are here on your own, that's fine. But what's your manufacturer tell you about yourself? If you created yourself, then you go to yourself to tell you how you're supposed to fix you, right? So Mark makes us deal with our manufacturer. How did I get here? Who am I? What's my purpose? Let's write this down. Let's get a good blueprint. That's what Marked is about. It's not just saying I'm marked by His love. No, I have a blueprint of what I was supposed to be. Everything that has happened up until this point is all going to work together, because now that I have a blueprint and I have learned some things, bad or good, negative or positive, now I'm going to take a pen and I'm going to write down where I'm going from here. And I'm going to line that up with how I'm creating. And so Mark says, get down, take some time, stop just being people who talk about it, do something about it. Wow. So I'm just so over the whole, everybody has a dream. Well, I don't want to live a dream anymore. I want to live a reality. What are my limitations? What can I do? And work with what I can do. And push myself to my greatest limit.
And I talk about a lot the difference between a dream and a goal. You know, a dream is something a dream is one of those things that it's a faraway thing, something that's unachievable. But the moment you take your dreams and turn them into goals and create tasks to accomplish those goals, you're now working toward it. It's a different thing. It's a goal for me.
And Mark helps you start dealing with that. It doesn't just say you write down. It asks you questions. So the workbook journal is asking you, what is it that you want to do? It's making you start to think. And it's saying, what are your steps in doing that? So the goal from after you get through the Marked by His Love journal, workbook journal, we're asking our readers to say, how long does this take? Put yourself, start on a weekly basis. Then start on a bi-weekly basis. Then in a month, what do you plan on doing in a month? It makes you look back and see, have you accomplished anything you said in that week? So let's say your goal is to, like I said, I'm a woman, so I'm always on weight. So if your goal is, I want to lose weight by this amount of time, you don't just say, I want to lose weight, and in 6 months I'm going to be a size this. You got to say, what did I do this week? So I'm encouraging people to use the workbook journal as a calendar, to start marking down and writing. So it doesn't just get to a goal. It asks you questions. Who are you? What is it that you always wanted to do? Do you still want to do that? Are you ready to start saying, well, I don't want to be a judge anymore. I'm 50 years old. I don't want to go back to school. But what I do want to do is I want to write a book. I want to help other people. Or I want to mentor someone. I want to get involved in my local schools. You know, it's asking you questions to say, what is it that you really want to do? And that's a non-gender thing. You know, men and women, young and older, need to start looking at life from a realistic lens, not from a fantasy lens, not from the world's perspective. And I'm sorry to say this, but everybody's not going to go to college, and you know. So if your background is poverty, the hood, what have you learned from that? And what do you want to do? You may learn some valuable skills on how to save money.
Right.
So how do we put that into action to be success? I want the Marked by His Love to start marking people's life. I am an entrepreneur, or I am a businessman, a businesswoman, and I want to go to school. I want people to start being real.
So what you're saying is the people who are watching should go get the Unmarked Grave.
Yep.
And then, in addition to the Unmarked Grave, they need to go ahead and get
Marked by His Love
as the journal, to go along with it. So yeah, by combining both of those, they'll have the full perspective.
They have the full package on their, what I call their feel and deal process. This is, I'm going to feel, I'm going to deal, and I'm going to walk to freedom. I'm going to be my best me. You need both of those books to do that. You need to start. The Unmarked Grave will make you dive in. You're going to have compassion for this young girl who lived such a horrific life. You'll find yourself saying, wow, that was tough, and then it'll make you start looking at what was tough in your life. The Marked by His journal, the Marked by His Love journal will make you start saying, let me start doing some things different in my life. So I encourage everybody to get both books. Also go on the site, Operation.
That's exactly where we're going next. So you go ahead.
Operation
where can they get these books?
Jumpstart Legacy. So Operation Jumpstart Legacy, again, is an organization that we created for counseling, mentorship, consulting. You may not know what you want to do. You know, you may be at a place where I don't even know where to start. Then you want to call us, want to contact us. And what we do is we'll sit down and do a free consultation with you. Just see where your life is, what you want to do. You want to get these books from there. You can get several material online at operationjumpstartlegacy.com, where you can purchase the books, where you can call us for consultation to start your healing process, your dealing process, your life process. Start marking your life. We're going to mark our life. We're going to do it on purpose.
So also, it was published by Fortune Publishing Group.
Yes.
We're very, very pleased to put that book together and helping you bring that book to the market. It's a wonderful book, and even talking with you throughout the process, but especially even here now, it's more than just a book.
Yes.
And so definitely would strongly encourage anyone who's out there watching to get this book. Go get both the Unmarked Grave and then Marked by His Love. Again, go to Operation Jumpstart Legacy to get your copies of both, and then actually schedule if you want time. So if somebody is it's kind of, they've read both books and they're kind of going through this journey that they want to do self-discovery, are they able to call you and schedule sessions with you?
Yes.
To
if
kind
you
of
go on the site, you're able to write us and let us know you want to do some. I have some free consultations available for people that want to come, and we can start your process. It's not just me. I work with some great life coaches, great Christian and regular counselors. So we're on site ready to help anybody that needs, that jumpstart. We know that people have a hard time doing it by themselves. And it took my mother's death to jumpstart me.
Wow. And
so I realized that everybody needs a push, to get that legacy started, to create something different for their life, and let us work with you. Operation Jumpstart Legacy will help you, we will guide you through this process. You are not alone. That's what I want people to know, that in going back to the grave and starting to mark your life, you are not alone. This is not a business that is about us. We want to help people build a legacy that they can be proud of, that their children, grandchildren can be proud of. So we're taking our lives back. We're marking it for great destiny. So I want to thank you, Max. You, the Fortune Company has really helped me create this brand, and it's been really remarkable. I'm looking forward to how many people we can help.
And you know what? We almost I almost forgot to tell people that there is a book signing coming up.
Yes, yes.
And
yes,
so
thank you.
so the people who are
I got so caught up too.
yeah, you know, so tell people about where they can actually come meet you in person.
Yes.
And get their book signed by you.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
So we are having a premiere, a book premiere for the Unmarked Grave and Marked by His Love. It is March the 10th at 11 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We're going to have free food, free dancing. We're going to have, I love reggae, for those that don't know me. I'm not wearing this dress because of a movie. I happen to love my heritage, and I love reggae music. So we're going to have a great time. Yes, the pastor's going to be dancing. So come out there. You can check and get the address online. It is in 210 Fort Washington, Maryland. So again, go to Operation Jumpstart Legacy. You can sign up and see where we're going to be on March the 10th. We're going to have a great time. Come out, get your book autographed, meet me. Let's take some pictures, get to know my family, and just have a good time with us. We look forward to seeing new faces.
And not only that, but you're kicking off your book tour March the 10th, but then you're going to New York, North Carolina,
yes,
Florida, and
yes,
so many other different places.
Yes, we have so many people already just scheduling me. It's been a wonderful experience. We're going to Greensboro, North Carolina in April. The end of March, I'll be in New York promoting the book at a cafe there. And we will have all these details again on Operation Jumpstart Legacy website. You can find out where we're going to be. The books are going to be there. You can just come and be supportive. This is a movement, you know, a movement of change, a movement of change. We're about to mark our lives, other lives. We're really connecting with great people like yourself and Cynthia Rollins to just kind of bring us as a community together, break the barriers, start working with different races of people, and just let's come and connect and start dealing with things and marking our future.
Awesome. Well, listen, you've been an amazing guest. I'm so glad that you came on to the Max Fortune Show, and I want to thank everybody who's watching. For those of you watching, if you missed any part of the show, you can view the Max Fortune Show on YouTube for replays, and you can go to Max Fortune Show on YouTube, and you can find the replays of this. Or you can simply go to AskMaxFortune.com and just click on the picture and take you to that to the YouTube channel. Also, if you're interested in becoming a guest on the Max Fortune Show, you can call 844-220-2266. You can also email us at maxfortuneshow@gmail.com. Now, if you like the content we bring every week, make sure you like the page for Fortune Folks Ask Max Fortune. Again, I want to thank you for watching the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and the Max Fortune signing off. So thank you very much.